Welcome everyone to another episode of the Heat vs. Pro podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joel Jacob, and you can follow me on Twitter at JoelKJacob_. With me always, I got some guests. First, we got Miami Flash PE and Jimmy Bucket. Say what's up to the people, guys.
What's up, everybody? It's Miami/P on Twitter.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Jimmy Bucket. Follow me on Twitter, Jimmy Bucket, four Z's at the end.
And then following them, we got Jay Talk and Jake Wild. Say what's up to the people, guys.
What's up, guys? My Twitter is JTalk. You can just call me J though.
And yo, what's going on, guys? Jake Wild here. You can catch me out on Twitter at Wild Thoughts.
And then following them, I will say what's up to the Heat vs. the World audience, Jules, and our female correspondent, Angelina Martel.
Hi guys, it's Jules, aka 305 Hero on Twitter. What's going on, guys? It's Angelina Martel. You can follow me on Twitter at Angie Martel with 2 E's for all your latest Miami Heat updates.
And then following them, we have a very special guest. We have for you a two-time champion with the Miami Heat, someone who is still a familiar face for Heat fans to this day. He runs his own podcast called Believe in Miami Heat and currently plays in the LMB Pro A League. Say what's up to the Heat vs. the World audience, Mr. Norris Cole.
What's going on? Glad to be here. Appreciate you guys having me. Cold-blooded.
Let's go. Thank you, man. So without further ado, let's just get started. So first thing I want to ask you, Mr. Cole, is, you have probably one of the most unique careers out of a lot of players in the NBA. And one question I've always wanted to ask you was, for you as a rookie, I'm sure you probably had a lot of pressure on you being drafted into a Miami Heat team that had three superstars in LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh and all of them. So I wanted to know, how was it like knowing that a lot of eyes were on you and all that?
Actually, man, it was fun. As you know, I had a lockout my rookie year, so I didn't have a traditional training camp. But the season started on Christmas Day, which was great. I got my first basketball rim, my first official size basketball rim on Christmas. My grandfather had got it for me like years and years ago. I think I had to be like 9 years old, but he gave me my first real basketball rim on Christmas. And so for me to play my first NBA basketball game on Christmas was like very like ironic and exciting. But to play on that type of team, it was fun. All I wanted to do was prove that I belong, and I wanted those guys to trust me out there on the court.
For sure. And then let's see. And you got a question you want to ask?
Yes, I do. I just want to say thanks so much for taking the time to come on. We're really grateful and thankful to have you on. And my question for you is, what was it like winning 2 back-to-back championships in your first and second year on the Miami Heat, and let alone the NBA? Like, that must have been crazy for you. Like, you just got drafted and you're just like, yo, I just won 2 back-to-back championships. Like, this is crazy. How did that all feel for you?
Honestly, that's all I really knew. I didn't know how to feel. It was my reality. It was like my norm. So to come in my rookie year and win a championship, that was like, okay, this is what the NBA is like. this is how it is. And my teammates always would tell me like, no, this is not normal, Norris. Like, this is not normal. But for me, it was normal until we finally lost. And then I was like, okay, winning is not normal. Winning the championship every year is not normal. But until then, up until that point, having those 2 championships, it was like, it was my norm. And it was wild. It was exciting, obviously. It was, a great time in Miami. As you guys know, the city was buzzing. But for me, it was like a dream come true, and it was the norm for me. That's all that I really had known up until that point.
Yeah, so cool. I kind of want to touch on that as well. So yeah, I mean, you come right out of school. You're a first round pick, but for most players, rookie year is a lot about development. It's a lot about getting your feet wet, getting through that first season, that 82 game season, which is very long. But you were ready day one. I think a big moment that all Heat fans remember is that first home game against the Celtics when you came in and pretty much single-handedly won the game. I mean, pretty sure you had like 18 points or 19 points in the fourth, and just it was a really fun moment, and we knew right away that you'd be a contributor. How did that feel? And obviously with playing with the big three, how did it feel knowing that you were going to be, playing at a high level with those guys right away?
Man, it felt so good, bro. Because I had watched so many games, and it was on TNT, and I had used to watch the games, and I was like, I always wanted to get interviewed by Craig Sager. Shout out to Craig Sager and his family. But yeah, I had always wanted to get interviewed by him, and that first home game, Heat Nation was unbelievable. First of all, because we all know about the rivalry with Miami and Boston, with the big three versus our big three, and so to feel the energy in the building and to be able to perform, and for the coach and the players to have the trust in me to have me out there, during the fourth quarter, during big minutes, it was great for me, man. It's kind of what I was used to in college. I was used to having the ball in my hands and things of that nature. And for it to happen, like D Wade and LeBron, they were passing me the ball and I was able to make some shots. It was kind of cool because normally, they take those shots, they scored a big points in the fourth quarter, but for them to trust me in that game, in that environment, and for me to be able to, make some plays for the team, it was fun. And then to get that interview with Craig Sager, that topped it all off. That was pretty cool.
Definitely. Very cool moment.
Then Flash, what about you? You got a question you got to ask Norris?
Yeah, hey Norris. So you've been with the Heat for a bunch of years, but you've also been a part of other NBA teams, and now you're overseas. I wanted to ask you, how does the Heat culture, all the way from Pat Riley, all the way down to the trainers and the staff, differ from other teams that you've been part of in your career?
Yeah, so the Heat culture is definitely real. It's definitely real. It's based off of consistency and discipline. If I had to choose two words, we were very consistent in our work ethic and what we do, and very disciplined in our approach of doing things. So, obviously the weight and body fat, we get checked weight and body fat every week. The conditioning program is world renowned. Everyone knows that the Miami Heat conditioning program is, second to none. The training staff, they do their jobs. The managers do their jobs. Everyone does their job. Everyone's focused on doing their job and doing it the best to their abilities. And when you have an organization from top to bottom that's held accountable to that standard, you have a first class organization. And so it's definitely unique there. They definitely have their own way of doing things, and I'm glad to be a part of the Heat culture.
Then after that, Jimmy Buckets, what's your question?
Absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Norris. Thank you so much. I was wanting to know, I've heard that one of your favorite players when you were growing up was LeBron, if not one of your favorite player. I'm not sure if it's your favorite player or one of them, but I've heard he's been up there. So what was it like playing with one of your favorite players, and how did playing with him and being around him change your game and yourself on and off the court?
Yeah, so LeBron was from Ohio, and so just the fact that he was from Ohio, he was one of my favorite players. He was my favorite player in the NBA. Once he entered the league, MJ is my all time favorite player, and then T Mac was my favorite player at the time.
He's my
And then,
T-Mac's mine.
and then when LeBron, yep, and then when LeBron got drafted into the NBA, it went from being T Mac to LeBron. Just because he was from Ohio, and so for me to be able to play in the NBA with another fellow Ohio guy, and then a guy who was, my favorite player in the league. It was really cool, man. But that kind of changed once I entered the NBA because it went from being like my favorite player as a fan to being like my coworker. So, we had a job to do, and so even though he was like my favorite player, when I came to work every day, it was like, we have a job to do, and so I had to snap out of that.
Uh,
Hmm.
I got a similar question. Like in the 2013 season, LeBron had one of the best individual seasons of all time. Like, how was it
Hmm.
seeing that in front of you, Norris? Like, as his teammate?
Man, it's almost like a movie. It's almost like you're living in a movie, because you always see documentaries of, like, you know Jordan and Kobe and the older players that came before. But to be actually on the court and in the locker room while these things are going on, it's like you're living in real time, like living in a movie. And just to be a part of it and to be able to have some of those plays and highlights and share some of those moments with him, it was remarkable. It was definitely, he's definitely, should probably have more MVPs, but to be able to be in that season, to see the things that he was capable of doing, it was great to be a part of that.
Got robbed of a defensive player of the year too that year.
Man, 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 that was bad. The NBA did him wrong that year.
Definitely.
And then, Norris, another question I want to ask you. The 2013 Heat team, that's probably one of the best teams in NBA history, and one of the main reasons why was because you guys did one of the most impossible things a team could do, and that's win 27 games straight. How did it feel being constantly in the media, with people with other teams wanting to challenge you guys and try to end that streak?
Well, to be honest with you, when we were on the streak, we never talked about it. We never once mentioned it. We never talked about it or discussed it. We just, we were taking it one game at a time, because you got to remember, during those times, it was championship or bust. So, no matter what happened in the regular season, the expectation was to win a championship. And so we never talked about it. The only time we talked about it was when it was over. When we finally lost that first game after winning 27 straight, we acknowledged it. We had like a little moment in the locker room. And then after that, we said, let's go win the championship now. And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. Dan, what about you? You got a question?
Yes, I do. There's this one, it's an iconic play that you broke Derrick Rose's ankles in the 2013 game versus Chicago. How did that feel? I know you probably felt on top of the world at that moment, because I still rewatch that clip and I'm like, "Oh my God." It's a great one. It really is. It's a great one.
It's funny because during the game, when you make a play, you don't really react to it. Like, when I made the play, I didn't really know what happened to him. I knew I made a good move and created separation, but I didn't really know that he really fell down like that. Um, but I mean, it was cool. I mean, the fan reaction, the fans were more excited about it than I was. I was just out there, playing ball. I'm used to being able to, make a nice move on people and be able to create a shot. That's what I practice for in the summertime. But for it to be the fact that it was Derrick Rose, who's obviously, he was one of the best players in the league at the time before his injuries, and it was cool to be able to make a shot over him. But I think the fans, the fans in Heat Nation enjoyed it, more than I did. I was just out there playing ball. And, I made a nice move, and the best part was making the shot, because it doesn't count if you don't make the shot. So I just wanted to, when I heard the crowd go, ooh, I had to make sure I concentrated to make the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still great to this day, honestly, but
Oh yeah, it's just a pretty cool highlight for sure. It's definitely a cool highlight.
it's similar to Olynyk breaking Brook Lopez's ankles in that game against Milwaukee. Everyone was like, "Ooh," and then he had to hit the three, and it was just like everyone was like, "Ah." But
Yeah. The ooh without the I don't count.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You
You got to
said
go
it.
100%. You just can't do 50.
Yep.
So I wanna ask you a little bit about the repeat. Obviously something that I believe is only done. It's only been done not by six different franchises, I believe, or five different franchises. Essentially, one of the most rare feats that a team can possibly accomplish. And whenever you hear a guy talk about a repeat, they always say that second year, getting back there because everyone's gunning for you, and actually winning that second one is harder than the first. I wanted to see if you agreed with that, and also get some of, if you had any thoughts on kind of what that second year and what that repeat felt like and how you were able to accomplish it.
Yeah, so that second year was definitely tough. You know, I think during the whole Big Three era, every team was trying to give their best shot at us, but that second year was definitely tough coming after a long season to be able to, regroup. Shorter off season, obviously, by playing through all the way through June, to be able to regroup, refocus, stay humble, and do it again. Because that feeling that you get when winning a championship, man, it's a feeling that you always are striving to get to again. And that's what we wanted. We was like, we want to get to that, to that finish line again, but there's a process. And so we wanted to make sure we didn't skip any steps. We didn't take any shortcuts. Even when we retired, we still, had practice. We still had our shoot arounds. We didn't skip any steps. And I think that's what I learned the most from winning those back-to-back championships is that if you want to do something special, you do things consistently every single day. And that's what we did. We practiced hard every day. We got our treatment every day. We got our extra shots in every day. We got our proper rest that we were supposed to get, and we enjoyed each other. Like we enjoyed those moments, like the Harlem Shake videos and all the epic moments, the alley oops, the photo bombing and everything that we were doing. We were working hard, but we were having fun while we were doing it. And I think that's what made it so special.
Nice. Speaking of that second championship, there was one of the most iconic games or moments in Heat history, if not the most iconic, Game 6 in 2013. Right. So there was probably down by 3 with a few seconds left on the clock. And rebound Bosch, back out to Allen, his 3-pointer, bang. What was the atmosphere in there? Yeah. What was the atmosphere in there like, and what was going through your mind during that whole sequence? Because I know the yellow rope was coming out, right? They thought everything it was over. Fans were leaving. That happens.
Everyone thought it was over except us. We was taking it one play at a time. Coach drew up a play. At first I was like, okay, LeBron gonna make this 3. When he missed, I saw Chris get the rebound. When he threw it out to Ray, man, I just knew it was going in. It was like Ray had made so many tough shots for Boston Celtics, for Supersonics, for Milwaukee. We had seen Ray make these shots all the time. So I was like, in my mind, I was like, it's his time to make the big one for us now. And so as soon as he let it go, I had a great angle. And I just knew it was going in. So, I always believe in if you think positive things are gonna happen. So I had no doubt it was going in. And when it went in, it was like pandemonium. Like you said, James, Bosh, rebound, kick out to Allen, bang! It was like crazy in there. Oh man, I get chills when I watch it to this day.
That's my favorite game of all time, by far.
Man, that was great, man. That's like the best shot. That's like one of the best shots ever in finals history.
Ever.
I think
Yeah.
it is the best.
It's the best. Yeah, by far.
All the circumstances, the kind of win or go home. I have no problem saying it's the best shot in NBA history.
Yeah, definitely. I would say if it's not the best, it's definitely top 2.
Watching it on your TV is one thing, but being there firsthand to experience it, like being on the team, watching it from the oh my god, that must have been crazy for you.
Oh man, super adrenaline rush.
Your heart's racing. You're like, is he gonna hit it? Is he not gonna hit it? And when he hits it, it's like almost a sigh of relief. But it's just like so much is happening. You're like, you know what I mean? It's hard to like describe because like I wasn't there, but
man, my vertical inch increased by like 15 inches.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Hey Norris, I want to ask you about something else that's kind of funny to me, and that's poor Jeremy Lin and the defense you guys played on him on February 23rd, 2012 at American Airlines Arena. So now I know defense is huge for you, man. Horizon League Defensive Player of the Year at Cleveland State. Monster defensive guard. If nobody has watched Norris, go back, watch his film on YouTube. Just puts the clamps on. And him and Mario decided that night that Linsanity was not coming in the American Airlines Arena. So my question to you is, you guys held him to 8. You guys held it to 1 of 11 shooting, forced him into 8 turnovers. Like, what was your game plan for that night? And I'm pretty sure that you and Mario single-handedly ended Linsanity.
Yeah, the game plan was just that. No Linsanity tonight. That was that was the attitude. Linsanity ends tonight. Because obviously that was the biggest phenomenon in NBA history, what he was doing. Like what he
Yeah.
did, the run that he went on is the best run of all time, like in the NBA. Like the things that he was able to do. And so, it was great to watch him do that against other teams. But for us, it was like, okay, enough is enough, not against us. And that's the attitude, me and Rio had.
Heck yeah, man!
Simple as that. It was simple
that was
as that.
honestly one of my favorite defensive games of all time. Playoffs or regular season, anything. I was just going crazy that game. I was like, yes, no more Linsanity around here. Get him, Cole. Get him, Rio. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, that was truly how they say a defensive spectacle that night. That was crazy.
We didn't have no choice. I mean, either do that or watch Linsanity on your own home court. We didn't want that to happen.
Okay, Norris, I just want to speak on another iconic Heat moment. So Chalmers gets a steal half court, and then he passes it to one of you, Wade or you, and then somebody throws the lob to James and dunks on Jason Terry. How did that feel? Like seeing that, like literally in front of your eyes, like 2 feet away from it.
Oh man, so at first it was bad because I turned the ball over. I turned the ball over and I was trying to get the steal right back, and then D Wade back tipped it to
Oh, that
Rio.
was D-Wade.
Rio threw it to me, and I had a chance to lay it up, but I seen LeBron trailing in the corner of my eye. So it's like either I can lay it up, maybe it was going to be a contested layup, maybe, or I can throw the lob. I seen LeBron running full speed. I'm like, oh, he running full speed. I throw the lob, and he could dunk it. And so I threw the lob. I didn't think it was going to be as memorable as it was because after he dunked it, as you can see, we didn't really show too much emotion. The bench went crazy, but on the court, we didn't show too much emotion because we were so locked in. But it's like the next year they replayed at the anniversary, and then the next year, and then the next year, and here it is 9 years later. They still talking about it. It was like, wow, it's crazy how one great play can live forever, and that's kind of how that play was.
Right. Thank
Because
you.
to me, that's not the best lob I've ever thrown to LeBron, but to everyone else, that's the most memorable one. So it was like, man, it's kind of crazy how one moment can live forever.
What
That
about that
was a
bounce
crazy sequence.
pass from Dwayne to LeBron? The bounce pass, the iconic photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. But see,
Another good one.
that was a nice snapshot. But even that
It
wasn't
was
the
timed
best.
perfectly.
Yeah, man, that was great camera action.
You've been engraved in a lot of history, Norris. You're gonna
A
live on
lot of it.
forever, man. You're gonna live on forever, bro.
Thanks,
For
brother.
real. Yeah, for real. In history, man.
Man,
Forever.
I've been blessed and fortunate, man. My career is, I've been blessed to be able to play in some great places and some great environments and some great moments.
Norris, quick question on that note. So obviously you being a player that, one of the toughest defenders I've ever seen, on a team that stresses defense, by the way. So I'm sure they appreciated that. But who was the hardest player you ever had to defend? Or maybe, one of the guys that comes to mind is just someone that no matter what you did, kind of can get their bucket no matter what.
Derrick Rose, when he was healthy, was the hardest person to guard. For sure. Derrick Rose was the hardest person to guard, bro.
Yeah.
He was
unstoppable.
because if you played the perfect defense as a point guard, he could still just jump right over you and shoot a floater right over the top of you. Plus, his balance and coordination. Like, first of all, he could dunk over the help. Like, you would guide him to the help, and he would dunk on the center that's supposed to be helping for you. So it was like, he had everything for a point guard, bro. You could just he was fast, he was poised, under control, good balance. He had good touch shots, like I said, floater, mid range, layups, dunks, and when he got in rhythm, he can also hit threes as well. So I would say Derrick Rose by far was the hardest player I had to guard. And then later on it became like Steph, when I played like in New Orleans, when Steph was on that hot run for MVP and stuff, it had become Steph. But Derrick Rose for sure was the hardest person to guard. He's better when he was healthy. He's better than every guard in the NBA for sure, even to this day.
Wow.
It takes a very special player to take away MVP from LeBron in his first year in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, and that was kind of controversial as well. I mean, he had an MVP season, but I mean, LeBron had those same stats basically the year before and had one MVP. He had one, I think. Well, LeBron won 3 MVPs in a row or something like that, or 4 in 5 years, four MVPs in 5 seasons, something like that. And they didn't give it to him that year because he came down to Miami because he could have very well won it that year as well. But yeah, Derrick Rose at what was he? How old was he? 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
He's the youngest MVP in NBA history.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that just shows you how special he was, man. And he was the scary part was he was just getting started because he was like he was young.
He was 22, by the way.
22, yeah. Still
Crazy.
the youngest ever though.
Yeah. They don't make him like that.
It would have
No.
been crazy to see what would have happened if he had never got hurt, just to
Man,
see the potential and how he probably would have more MVPs.
Yeah, well, we don't know because LeBron is still in the NBA. Let's not forget that.
True that. True
But
that.
the Eastern Conference would have definitely still been the more dominant conference with him healthy because it would have been Chicago, us, Boston, and Indianapolis. That would have been a gauntlet just to get out of the East.
Yep.
Yep.
So Mr. Cole, a question I want to ask you is, being a part of a team as memorable as the 2012-2013 Heat, is there anything specific about that team, aside from the success, that's something that you're going to treasure with you for the rest of your life?
Yeah, the thing I think I'm going to treasure other than like the basketball parts is learning from those guys. Each of those guys had a brand. Each of those guys were professional. Each of those guys had things that they had going on outside of the court. And I was able to see and notice and learn and ask questions about all of that. And I'm now able to apply that now that I'm a veteran. But those guys were very professional in their day-to-day approach to their craft of basketball and their businesses and their brands. And also the fun times we had, just with the fellas, we had team get together where it was just us or us and the families, and bro, we just had good time as people, listening to music, dancing, telling jokes, and things of that nature. It was something that I'll never forget. And for me to be so young and get that experience, it's something that I'll take with me. And when I play, since I've played on other teams, especially as the veteran guy, I try to pass down some of the knowledge and experiences that I've had, and try to incorporate some of the things that we used to do on those teams. I try to incorporate that on other teams that I've played on.
Mm-hmm. Then let's see. Moving forward, before we change the topic, does anyone else have any questions they want to ask, or?
I got one that I really wanted to ask. So obviously, when you were with the Heat, Pat Riley had as he still does, but had his fingerprints all over the organization. Do you have any Pat Riley moments and any memories you could share?
Uh, any Pat Riley moments? Pat was just always intense. He was always intense. Anytime he talked, it could be about something fun, and it still sounds intense with Pat. It's not any in particular. I mean, it's some, but some of the things that when he talked, it was just for us, just for the family, just for the players, and so I'm going to keep that private between us, the players. But everything every time Pat talked, it was like very, very intense. But Pat also knew how to have a good time, and when it was party time, Pat was front and center and always made sure we had a great time. And so, yes, he's serious, but he also knows how to have a party. Ain't no party like a Pat Riley party.
Godfather himself.
Yes, the Zen man.
So then moving forward, so now, Norris, I know you still love to talk about the Heat in your podcast. So obviously, we got to bring up this year's Heat team. So one of the questions I want to ask you is like, you look at this Heat team this year, they're clearly not like the teams you were a part of when you were in Miami. So you look at this Heat team right now, what's your thoughts about it?
Well, obviously they have some room to grow. Um, Coming off of last season, they had a great run last season. This season they've had a tough time being consistent. But this year has been an awkward year. No training camp. You know, not no extra time to get to know each other through practices and those training sessions that are vital before the season. And I think that's kind of played a role, especially with the coronavirus. But I'm also excited in the potential of this team. With Jimmy and with Bam, they bring a lot of experience, a lot of high level, high caliber play, and I believe that they can lead this team in the right direction once we get to the postseason. So, the team has been inconsistent so far, but I also believe that when it's time to play in the playoffs, I believe that no one is nobody is going to want to play against the Heat.
Especially
Yes,
with
sir.
Jimmy, he has that switch, doesn't he? That
Oh
little
man,
playoff switch.
yes he does. What Drake say? I
Yep.
just flipped the switch. Flip the switch.
0 to 100 real quick.
Absolutely.
All right, Norris. My question for you is, who's winning the MVP, Defensive Player, and Coach of the Year convo in your opinion, and why?
Whew. So defensive player of the year, I'm gonna have to go with I got two names. I got
Hey,
Bam out Bam Bayou, and
Facts.
Bam out the bayou.
yep, he's having a great defensive season. But you also have Ben Simmons, who's also having a great defensive season as well. So I would say Bam or Ben Simmons for defensive player of the year. For MVP, it's tough because a lot of people are hurt, But the Joker, he's played in every single game. He's averaging, I think, 20. What is he averaging? 26, 11, and 9, something like that. And he's played in every single game. But before anybody got hurt, I was gonna say that Joel Embiid and LeBron were front runners for MVP. But since they've been hurt, I definitely have to say the Joker for MVP right now. And Coach of the Year, mm,
Mm.
mm. Coach of the Year, you know what? I'm gonna have to say it's Tom Thibodeau. What he's doing in New York right now, they're very relevant. They're on a 6 game win streak. No one expected them to turn it around this quickly. I would have to say Tibbs, man. Tibbs has done a great job this season turning the New York Knicks around.
I think
yeah,
they're on
to
an
me,
8 game win streak, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're probably right. Probably is 8 game win streak.
Hmm. But yeah, still
And
crazy.
then just so quick thing, I just want to go on that answer, Norris. So one person who's been a favorite for Defensive Player of the Year is Rudy Gobert, and it's been kind of controversial because there are people who are high on him, and then there are people who aren't. We even had Eric Reed himself say that not that he's Defensive Player of the Year, but MVP in general. So it's interesting to see how people's views of him go. So, is there any reason why you didn't include Rudy Gobert as your as a possible winner of Defensive Player of the Year?
Well, Rudy Gobert, he's obviously a great shot blocker, rim protector for Utah Jazz. He has been for a long time now, but I think the versatility of Bam and the versatility of Ben Simmons is what separates them. Ben Simmons can guard literally 1 through 5. You know, Bam can, obviously guard and switch off on 1 through 5. And so when you talk about being able to guard multiple positions at a high level, those two guys are just distinctly different. Obviously, he's an elite shot blocker. Like I said, he anchors the defense very well. And for those who believe that he should be, I understand their argument. But when you see how Ben Simmons guards the point guard, and then he can also guard the center. And the same Bam starts off the game guarding the center, and then they switch everything, and he switches off and guards the point guards. And how effective he is, I think it's just undeniable to say that Bam and Ben Simmons are not the two most complete defenders in the league right now.
Right. And then Jake, what about you?
So obviously, back when you played under Eric Spoelstra, the NBA was very different.
Yes.
You knew that obviously towards the middle years of your career when things started to shift a little bit, and the three ball became it. If you weren't hitting threes, you're not winning. That's just end of story. So and obviously when you play with the Heat under Spo, things having changed, I kind of wanted to get your perspective on how you feel like Eric Spoelstra as a coach has evolved. Because when you were playing under him, he was kind of an unknown. He was pretty unknown. And everyone knew he was the video coordinator who came out and
Right. He was young. He was young.
highly
Spo.
impressed. Yeah, but now when you think of Spo, he's of the best, if not the best coach in the league. Him and Pop. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on how you feel as he's evolved as a coach.
Well, I think exactly that. He's evolved. He's evolved. He's not one dimensional. He's been able to adjust to his personnel. He's done a great job of player development, communicating to his teams. Well, the style of play, what he's looking for, and them being able to go out and execute that. He's instilled confidence in his guys. Um, he's he's just grown. You can see from his first years to now, he's gotten better every single year, and that has to do with the Heat culture, consistency and discipline. He's very consistent in his work ethic. He's very disciplined, and that shows on his teams. He's had teams that were not as talented but still won a lot of games, and he's also shown when he has very talented teams, obviously he can win championships. So he's a complete coach now. He's a seasoned veteran coach now, and I'm happy that I was able to be able to play for him, because he's definitely going into the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Easy.
Okay. So Norris, I wanted to ask you, you've been so blessed to play with a bunch of all-time greats, and you've also been blessed to play with a bunch of all-time great shooters like Ray Allen, Shane Battier, and my personal favorite of all time, Mike Miller.
Don't forget,
And I
don't
want to
forget James Jones. Don't forget James Jones.
James
Don't forget Champ
Jones.
now.
Jones. By the way, the job he's been doing in the Phoenix has been amazing so far. Um,
Great
but
GM.
you've been playing with these really great shooters, and now these few years, you look at this Heat team with Duncan Robinson. How does his style of play and the way what he has been doing compare to those greats that you've played with before?
Well, he's obviously younger, at a younger point. When those guys got to the Heat, those guys were like super vets, and so they didn't get as many attempts as he gets now. And because the NBA has changed as far as the amount of shots per possession and things of that nature, the percentage of shots being 3-pointers, Duncan, he shoots a lot more threes than they did. And actually, the offense is ran, obviously it's ran through Jimmy and ran through Bam, but the offense is geared towards getting as many 3-point looks for Duncan as possible. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
our team was, LeBron and D Wade, get as many looks as they need and create for others. And that's the biggest difference. But Duncan can shoot it. He can flat out shoot it, man. And, you can tell that by he was struggling a little bit earlier this season, but his confidence didn't waver. He kept shooting, and now he's been, ever since the trade deadline is over, man, he's been shooting lights out. And so, I think he's already like the top 3-point shooter, if not one of the top in franchise history. I think by the time it's all said and done, if he stays with the team, he will be. He'll have all the 3-point records for sure, because of the times that we play in. The 3-point shot is very important.
Yeah, I think if Duncan stays at 40% through the rest of the season, I think he's going to be the third player to ever do it, and twice, and that's just Steph Curry, Thompson. That's it. So that's very impressive what he's doing, being a non-ball handler.
He's elite. He's what you call a marksman. He's an elite shooter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
So
Jimmy
this is
Buckets, what about you?
I just wanted to give my man Norris Cole a shout out to everybody listening. For those guys who don't know and gals who don't know, this man, he's got 2 high school state championships. He's had his college jersey retired at Cleveland State, where he was the Horizon Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in the same year. And he also has 2 NBA championships with our Miami Heat, which is amazing. So I just wanted to shout you out real quick for those that don't know what championship pedigree this man has. This is it.
I,
So
I appreciate that, bro. I
for
appreciate
sure,
that.
man. I've been following you since Cleveland State. I was so glad when we picked you up. Like so stoked. Like I was like, man, like super stoked. So it's just so cool being able to talk to you on here once again. I kind of have a 2-part question for you. First of all, I'm so glad that you didn't mention that French fraud in the top 2 of your defensive players of the year. And my
Hey,
question
hey, 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 easy, easy. I live in France now.
no, I know.
I
I'm
can't
just
let
kidding.
you say that. I can't let you say that.
All right, I'll take
Yeah,
that back.
yeah,
That's what all the
Shout
Heat
outs
fans
to
call
all
him
our
on Twitter,
French
though.
listeners out there, by the way.
yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can't do that. We can't
This
do
is a
that.
French-friendly podcast. Do not worry.
I know. I'm just kidding. That's everybody's joke on Twitter. But my question for you is, what similarities and differences in any way do you see between the Heat teams that you played on and our current Heat team, especially on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, the similarities I see are the defensive intensity. We played at a high level defensively. The Heat all year have played at a high level defensively. They have players that take pride in playing defense, and obviously Coach Spo is he's the common denominator. He's the coach for both teams, so those are similarities. Differences. Our team was built off of star power. We relied heavily on our big three to create offense, and we had a lot of veteran support role players, a lot of high level veteran role players who are battle tested. Um, this Miami Heat team is younger, a lot more youth, a lot more 3-point attempts. They play a different style offense with dribble handoffs and through Jimmy Butler and through Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson. So those are the biggest differences. The one thing that's always the same in Miami Heat culture is we expect to win. When we win, it's not an accident. When we win, it's no surprise. Whoever puts on that jersey, that's what we expect. We expect to win, and so I think that's the common denominator. But I think because of the times were different. When we was going on our run than now. Now everyone thinks they have to shoot a lot of threes. Think they have to score a lot of points, and the Heat actually is still unique when it comes to believing in defense and believing in cutting the possessions down, and not just running and gunning like the rest of the NBA does. So shout out to Spo for not being too trendy, but that's the biggest difference though, the 3-point attempts.
Speaking of commentators from then and now, you, I want to talk a little bit about Captain on his hat. How do you think you've been around him in the locker room? How valuable do you think he is to this team just being a presence in the locker room?
Well, he's a pro. He's a pro's pro, and he's setting the example. He's a verbal leader now, and he's also setting the example every day, coming to work ready. If Spo knows that if he throws UD in the game for more than 10 minutes, he gonna have 10 points and 10 rebounds. That's just a fact. That's just what's gonna happen if he plays double figure minutes. So he's always ready, and he's setting that good example. And I think that the young players are fortunate to have an OG like that, who's battle tested, who's seen it all, done it all, who's from the Miami area. Um, UD was a he was a great example when I was there too, because I was like a smaller version of him. I was feisty, aggressive. I didn't fear anyone. I believe that if you put me in the game for a certain amount of time, I was gonna have a certain amount of production. And so, I appreciated UD because he relied on hard work, and that's what I was about. And so, I think he's setting that same example for the young guys there now. And obviously, when he's done playing, his number 40 is going up in the rafters.
Without a
Easily.
doubt. Without a doubt.
On a similar note, Norris, so you talked about this a little bit just previously. I wanted to touch upon it again. About the vets that we have now versus, when you played with the Heat. Obviously, guys like Shane Battier, guys like Ray Allen, guys that have been there, done that. Guys like Battier specifically that can just come in and apply the clamps and play on the highest level of both offensive and defensive IQ of anyone. How would you, could you talk and touch upon the importance of a guy like Andre Iguodala or a Trevor Ariza to this Heat team and to like actually trying to be true contenders with that kind of experience?
Well, that's why those guys were brought in. You got to have guys that are battle tested. You got to have guys that's going to have the mental fortitude to be able to go through those tough, playoff series. And those guys are definitely battle tested. Those guys are champions. And, those guys are always going to be emotionally stable. Young guys, sometimes can be up, sometimes they can be down, but, those veterans, they're emotionally stable and can keep the locker room in check. And also on the court, they can read plays and kind of know what's going to happen before the play happens. And so those were big, additions. Andre Iguodala and this year having, Trevor Ariza. I think those are key additions.
Norris, I just want to ask you about Bam. With his unique play style, like, do you have any player comparison in mind from like past now?
I actually don't, man.
He's a
Thinking
one on
about it,
one.
I don't have any comparison that I can think of right off the top of my head that plays like Bam. Yeah, I don't. I really don't.
His
Ben
Twitter
is just so
handle's
unique, right?
appropriate.
Yeah, he is so unique.
Yeah, he's unique. Yeah, he's unique because he can block shots. He's a great athlete, but he can also play in the dribble handoffs and make those pocket passes and skip passes, short roll or roll all the way to the basket. You know, he's definitely different. Bam is
Ever,
different.
everyone just throws out the KG comparisons for him. So
Yeah, you gotta, KG is a legend now.
yeah,
I don't just throw legends names out there like that. I just don't do that. But I can see where somebody would say that, but his offensive game has a long way to go before he can be like, KG.
for sure.
But he's definitely defensively and playmaking ability wise, he's definitely kind of similar to KG. I can see that.
All right, and then a question that I want to ask you, Norris, is looking at this Miami Heat team. For you personally, what do you think is the ceiling for this Heat team come playoff time?
Well, I believe anything is possible. Actually, with this season, you have injuries, you have, you know, coronavirus, you have, teams with new additions. I believe that anything is possible. So the ceiling, obviously, I don't know ceiling. I believe they have a chance if they stay healthy and play well. They have a legit chance of possibly winning a championship. It depends on obviously a lot has to go right, but I believe that they have as good as a chance as anybody else coming out the Eastern Conference. Obviously, with the injuries in Brooklyn, they're not right now. It's looking like they're not going to be 100%. Philadelphia, they haven't proven that they can perform well in the playoff moments. Milwaukee hasn't proven that either. So, I believe Miami has just as good a chance as anybody if making it out of the East and having a chance to play in the finals if everything works well together.
Yeah, I always say this, man. If you got Jimmy, you have.
Yeah. It's
All
gonna
right,
be
man.
tough though. It's definitely gonna be tough, but I believe, like I said, anything is possible with this year, with this season.
All right, Norris. I had one last question I wanted to ask you before we close. you've experienced a lot of different funny moments from the Harlem Shake video to all the video bombs, photo bombs that you guys have had. Do you have a favorite moment from all of those different memories?
A favorite moment.
There's so many. I know it's probably hard to
Yeah, I'm
choose.
about to say it's hard to pick one moment out of all of them, but the Harlem Shake video was epic. I must say that. And we did that the day before we were playing the game. Like, so we had to win that next game. So yeah, if I had to pick one, there's so many different moments that, oh my goodness. Yeah, I'd just say the Harlem Shake, just because that's the one that everyone knows. But there's so many different moments that it's hard to pick one, honestly.
Where'd you get your outfit inspo from? I know you had the overalls with the basketball.
Yeah, I was NC Hammer, so the guy MC Hammer.
Oh yeah, I can't touch
Yeah,
the
yeah, I was.
fan.
Yep, so I was NC Hammer.
Oh, I got you. I get
Yeah, with the flat
that.
top. MC Hammer used to have a flat top too back in the day.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's funny.
Yeah, just a little bit of style.
And then Jules, what about you? You got a question to ask Norris?
Hi, I wanted to ask, what was your favorite hype song to listen to before games?
Say it one more time.
What your favorite hype to listen to before games?
You talking about back then or now?
Either one.
Back then, I don't even. Back then, I probably had to say like all of the lights. All of the Lights by Kanye West was a hot. Yeah, that was a nice song, and I used to listen to what else I used to listen to before the games. Um, Nelly. It was a song by Nelly, "Heart of a Champion."
Banger. That is a
Yeah,
banger.
that was my song. That was my championship song ever since high school. I would always listen to that before any championship game I played. District championship, regional, state championship, Horizon League championship, world championship, even out here in Europe. Before every championship game, I always listen to Heart of a Champion. And then now, I listen to like this like this motivational playlist by Earl Thomas. I mean Eric Thomas, ET. He has like these albums, motivational speeches, and I listen to it. The one I listen to the most is called Beast Mode.
Pre-game motivation. You love to see it.
Oh yeah, the song start off. It's not a song, but like it starts off by saying, "Are you gonna be a lion or a sheep?" And when I hear that, it's like I get locked in.
Beast mode is activated after that line.
Absolutely.
So then Norris, so before we end it, I just got two more questions to ask you. The first one that I want to ask you is, you've gotten to play with the Miami Heat and you've gotten a chance to play in other places as well outside of the NBA. As you mentioned earlier, you're living in France right now. So, I want to ask, have you, being in these various places, have you been able to use that heat culture in the other places you've been and have sort of used it for your advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. The consistency, the discipline that I have in the day to day habits of working out, training, being focused, um, being emotionally stable, in these different environments. I learned all that in college, and I learned all of those things playing, for the Miami Heat. And so, yeah, I definitely take it with me everywhere I go, and that championship pedigree, goes with me everywhere I go. And so, it's like now every game I play, it's like I'm so calm in every game because there's no game that's going to be bigger than the NBA Finals, and so There's no game that's too big for me. There's no game that I'm going to be nervous or anything like that. And that's because I was fortunate enough to play, in Miami.
And then, one last question I want to ask is, obviously it's been a few years since you've left the Heat. I want to know, like, how does it feel to know that Heat fans, especially fans like us, still love you to this day?
Man, it's pretty cool. Anytime people can acknowledge you for the person that you are and acknowledge you for the work that you've put in, it's a cool feeling. I never imagined, as a kid from Dayton, having fans around the world, having fans in Miami, in Florida. I never really, imagined that. And so, I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the fans. And, as much as the fans love me and things of that nature, I try my best to try to make, the fans happy when I'm out there performing and out there playing on the court. And so, I appreciate that. I'm always going to try to do my best to, put my best effort forward to be the best player and person that I can be. And when people recognize that and support that, it's a cool feeling. Shout
You
out Heat
deserve
Nation.
it. You deserve it, man. You've come so far.
For
And you've
sure.
proved yourself.
Man, I appreciate you
So,
guys.
anyway, yeah, thank you, Norris, so much. Thank you so much for hopping on today's episode. It really means a lot to all of us. And then for all those listening, make sure to check out Norris's podcast, Believe in the Miami Heat. It's very great to listen to. And with that being said, thank you all for listening to today's episode. Follow us on Twitter at Heat vs. the World _. And we'll see you guys next time with a brand new episode. We're out.